The US, the culture is quite different. Like, we nailed NVIDIA as one of the first paying customers of this new company. They don't really care about who invested in your company. It's mainly just based on whether or not you can deliver value to them. In Indonesia, I would say within that 6 months that we were there, if you didn't know anyone of significance, right? Even with US investors, it doesn't really mean much because you probably can't reach these people. We tried getting licenses, we tried getting customers. We got nothing done. I think one of the most popular ones is just people being very afraid, very dystopian about, oh, once the robots come out, we're not gonna have jobs. I don't think so. I think humanity has always been able to figure out what to do next. The job for humanity now, for me and you, is to experience where AI cannot go yet.
So for people who don't know you yet, who is Kevin Chandra?
I'm currently the CEO and co-founder of the prompting company, where we help products get discovered and used by agents. I grew up in Surabaya for 18 years of my life, and I left the US for college and never looked back.
Okay. And how was your childhood like?
My childhood was, I would say, pretty rough. My parents were the typical Asian parents who were very strict with their kids.
Tiger parents.
Tiger parents, they really wanted me to excel in school. And fortunately, I kind of enjoyed it. I did Kumon early on, like many other Asian kids. I liked it. I played musical instruments, and I delved into robotics very early on in life as well. I mean, I've always been a fan of science fiction, so I've always liked tech, and that's why I'm here.
Was the decision to move to the US, was it really your decision, or was it really something that your parents always wanted?
No, they actually only wanted me to go to school in the US, right? And upon graduation, they tried to convince me to come back home. And I was pretty convinced. I really wanted to go back home. Me and my friends, our first company, we actually got into Y Combinator upon graduation, and we wanted to build like a US stock trading app back home. And I went home, but that didn't really work out.
What happened?
It's a lot of regulatory issues when you're trying to build something in fintech. Obtaining the licenses are hard. The capital is also very big. We didn't have any of those. And yeah, we just found it really hard to even get the business started. And hence, when you're in YC, you kind of only have 3 months, right, before demo day. And because we found it extremely hard to build, not even the product itself, just getting the licenses and so on and so forth, we decided to why not just build software, right? And start from the US.
I want to ask a bit, when you were in school, before actually getting into YC, what made you started doing, a company with your friends?
Yeah.
Because like usually people in school, especially international students, they kind of know that, oh, there's like safe cushion back home. We don't really need to be doing anything innovative. So what makes you different?
I didn't have anything to come back home to. So that's what's different. My parents only had enough to send me abroad, but there wasn't any family business for me to inherit. So, fortunately and unfortunately, it set me on a path where I can do what I want. And I've always been interested in tech. I was one of those kids that got really inspired by the Steve Jobs keynotes, the movie, The Social Network, right? And I've always thought to myself, like, since the very first day I arrived in the US, like, I'm gonna build something there.
So that really become like an internal thought that you've also always had throughout your studies, that you're gonna be building something.
Of course, yeah. I only wanted to build something, but then gradually, as years passed by, I really like staying in the US. I like how competitive it is. I like how I can learn from anyone that I want. People like the CEO of Airbnb or Stripe would reply to your email, right? And so naturally, I wanted to stay here. And for international students, there's only a handful of ways that you can stay, right? Either you get a job and get the working visa here. But to me, because I really wanted to stay here, I didn't really want to gamble with a visa lottery, right? So naturally, I was just like, what is the sure way that I can stay here? And apparently it's by starting a company. And if you can raise a ton of funding, they'll give you a pass to stay in the US.
I want to go back into your time in Indonesia. So, how long was it when you tried to build something there?
Yeah, I still remember it. I was there for about 6 months. I came home, I think it was November of 2019, all the way to, I think, March or April of 2020, right before COVID started. For that whole 6 months, I assumed that I could get stuff done, right? Because in the US, things are pretty quick. You can spin up a company within a couple of hours. You don't need to go to the notary, and all that stuff is online. And in that whole 6 months, every day I was with my co-founder Albert back home. We tried getting licenses, we tried getting customers. We got nothing done. And at a certain point in March, I believe mid-March was going to be our demo day. And so we had to decide by early March whether or not we still wanted to do this, right? We had to present something to investors. We wanted to raise funding. And we just decided, like, okay, I think it's time to pivot. I think it's time for us to go back to the US and do something there.
Do you notice any like really crucial difference in building a company in Indonesia versus building a company in the US or maybe within the Western countries? Because you also kind of mentioned that getting customers is hard, getting licenses, of course, is hard, right? Might be also hard here, but specifically on like customers, why is it hard? And like maybe if there's any major differences.
Yeah, for sure. So I think the US, the culture is quite different. Like we nailed NVIDIA as one of the first paying customers of this new company. And they don't really care about who invested in your company. They don't care about who you know or your network. It's mainly just based on whether or not you can deliver value to them, right? So if you can deliver value, they typically just go for it.
And in Indonesia?
In Indonesia, I would say, I mean, we tried there, albeit like it's maybe not enough time. Within that 6 months that we were there, if you didn't know anyone of significance, right? Anyone in the government or anyone who is rich and powerful enough to introduce you, to help you open the doors, even with US investors, it doesn't really mean much because you probably can't reach these people or people of power to make those purchasing decisions. Compared to here, you could just go bottoms up.
Yeah. And you've built how many companies up to now?
Total, we've done 3 so far.
What are the companies and what do they do?
Yeah, so the first one we started was called Cotter. We were doing B2B passwordless authentication, so things like sending email OTPs, SMS OTPs, passwordless sign-ins using devices. Second one was called TypeDream. It was kind of like Livable before its era. So we tried doing vibe coding back in 2021, 2022. And now it's called the Prompting Company, where we sort of just transform your products to be able to be discovered and used by agents.
And across those 3 companies, obviously you've had multiple experiences building a company, selling it, changing team members and whatnot. What have you actually learned?
Yeah, so I think if you want to build a venture scalable business, you will know from day one whether or not it's going to be like $1 billion outcome or more. Right? And the way that you do that is by understanding the problem that you're solving. If it's big enough, if a lot of people have the same problem, then most likely it's going to be a venture scalable problem. Right? Even if it started out as something like of a niche, if it's large enough, it's just going to be big. Back then, I didn't know that. I thought any company solving any kind of problem will be able to give you the billions in return, but apparently it's not every problem.
Yeah, and how, when you started your first company and then you realize, okay, it's might not be as venture scalable as your current company, obviously with the experience that you had, and right now, what has changed when you started your third company? What are the maybe key things that you kind of look for when you look for an idea or like what to build next?
Yes. So again, the idea has to start from a problem. It has to be a problem that is big enough and it hasn't been solved before by an incumbent, right? Meaning if you go out there today and try all the products, the solutions kind of look like it's somewhere there, but it doesn't really solve the problem. And so we really like meddling in those kinds of problems in which it kind of feels like building a rocket ship, right? You know that you're trying to build a rocket, but whether or not it can go out to space, you don't know, right? Once it breaks, it falls down, you collect data, and then you come back to the labs, and then you try to learn whatever you got from that data points and try to improve the product to the point where it can actually be launched, right? So it feels more like that.
Yeah. How long does it take for you to come up with like a solution to this kind of problem?
Ooh, it really depends. I would say if you're building a company from the ground up, like us for startups, even if you don't solve the problem the first try, it has to solve a little portion of it, right? This is what we call a minimum viable product. So typically, it has to be able to be doable within weeks, right? So within a week or two, you got to be able to show customers results. Whether or not the product is there, maybe sometimes it's just you doing the work behind the scenes and you are the product. But yeah, usually within weeks.
Yeah. Do you use any specific method to validate, whether it's just like, talking to more people or talking to more customers, or just like, doing, I don't know, surveys? Like, do you actually use like a specific method?
No, we don't try to talk to customers and ask them what they want. It's just, we give them a link to pay, right? So we give them a Stripe link. If my solution is valuable enough to you, if I solve your problem, then pay for it.
Yeah.
Right? So if you get that first payment, that says everything you need to know, rather than just surveying them and asking hypothetical questions.
But that also comes down to if you have two paying customers, or if you have a paying customer, in the future, will the same type of customers also come back and pay and look for the same product? And that becomes a venture scalable business.
That's
so
correct.
How do you differentiate?
Yeah, so that is the challenge, right? If you can find the same types of customers with the same types of problems and solve them just with this one problem that you're making, typically that is a good sign that it is venture scalable. But if every customer wants a different way to solve the problem, then maybe it becomes more of like a consulting firm or an agency, and that doesn't really become a scalable company.
I want to go back to your journey within TypeDream.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you were building some sort of like a lovable now. Why not just continue that?
Yeah, so see, the thing is, when you're trying to build a startup, you are 24/7 working on it. And at that point, we have worked on it for 3 years. Had we waited just maybe half a year, we would have seen Claude launch Opus 4, and that would have changed everything. So it's not only important that you solve the right problem, but timing is also very key. And so a lot of the companies that are highly successful today probably have been tried before, but just because the timing isn't right and the technology is not there yet, then you sort of feel burnt out. You're like, oh man, are we ever actually gonna solve this problem or not? And so when we decided to sell, we just couldn't really make it work, right? It was somewhere there, but it's not like what you see Lovable can do today.
Yeah. Was it a problem of, at that time, was it a problem of really technology, or was it also an offer problem? Or maybe like not a problem, but it's too good of an offer to turn back? Or was there also like somewhat of an internal issue that you were also facing?
Yeah, for sure. So I think it's a mix of all of those, right? If everything is amazing, everything's great internally, you and your co-founders are fully aligned with what you want to do, you can probably just go at it, right? If you see companies like OpenAI, they've been doing the same thing, different ways of solving artificial general intelligence for 10 years, and they kept at it, probably things would have been fine. But at a certain point, your co-founders will also get tired, right? And if you have like a pretty large co-founding team, not everyone's going to be aligned on how to solve it and whether or not they want to go ham at it, right? 24/7, try to solve the problem. And when the offer came along, it just felt like it was a nice break for us, right? And the technology wasn't there. We were getting kind of tired, and an offer came along. It was nice. So the timing was perfect. We were all aligned on that.
Was there any regret from all those, or at that time, if there's no issue, would you be still building that kind of?
We probably would. We probably would have been Lovable before Lovable, but no regrets. Like you always learn from those types of experiences. Now we're a lot more intentional in what we're building. We're a lot more intense. So got a ton of lessons learned.
You also mentioned that founding team is very important when building something, because you constantly work with them 24/7. have you ever had any issues in the past, maybe in the past company, and how do you actually find the perfect fit for like a founders? Like, is there any specific formula, or is that really something that, let's see and try, right?
Yeah. So there's a handful of questions there. So I think co-founder conflict is inevitable. You're always going to face that, right? Having a co-founder is kind of like marriage without all the good things about being married, right? You're literally just coworkers.
Yeah.
But you're kind of
forever.
forever, right? For a very long time. But the formula to find a good co-founder, I would say, would be one of your best friends or your siblings, right? People who have been with you for a very long time, and you've probably fought with them, probably had issues with them, but it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, you know that you're gonna go, pretty far in life together. Yeah. You're still gonna see them at the end of the day. All those little problems will probably just go away. So yeah, I would say the right type of co-founder is either a best friend or family.
Yeah. Is there anything that you kind of see in like your potential co-founder, right? Because like, I know a lot of people that might be watching this video have the idea, have the grit, and have the hard work to, build a business, but again, they can't do it alone because probably they're not technical or they're both business founders. So how do you go about it and finding the right people? Like, is that like a geographical problem also? Like, is there any factor that has to do with that? Like, if you're in like Silicon Valley, for example, then you must be really ambitious, right? Yeah. Like, how do you find them?
Yeah, so I think location is very important. Being in San Francisco is kind of like a cheat code because everyone here, like you said, is very ambitious, and most of them are highly technical. So if you ever want to start a tech startup, this is probably the place to be and the place to find co-founders, right? And then the second question you had was what kind of qualities you look in your co-founder. Hopefully they complement you, right? If you're not that technical, you might want to have someone that's very technical. If you're not that good at selling, you want to find someone who's really good at selling. But generally, it's just someone who really complements you. But by default, everyone in the company needs to at least have a fundamental understanding on how to build the product and deliver results for the customers.
How about like the speed of like each and every one of the co-founder? Does it matter?
It does matter. So I would say my advice would be find someone who's economically aligned with you, or other life goals that are very aligned with you. I would say if you are like poor together, you kind of grow up poor together, that's one of the best ways to sort of find co-founders. Or you started in college together, you guys had nothing together. Those are some of the best ways to start a company. Yeah.
And you said that, finding the best co-founders would come from like best friends or like family.
Yeah.
How do you manage your personal relationship and also your working relationship?
Well, there's no balance, right?
So that becomes an issue.
That is an issue. It will be a mix of those. And that is going to be a challenge. The answer is probably going to be different for everyone. But generally, if you know that you really like that person and you've had some kind of like very deep emotional connection to the person, you'll look away a couple of different, problems that you're going to have along the way. Yeah.
Do you have any personal stories to share in terms of like really deciding, okay, this is like the boundaries that I want to set, or like this is not gonna happen again?
Yeah, me and my co-founders, we don't really have boundaries. Surprisingly, we're more like we're kind of like a married couple. Me, Albert, and Michelle. We have seen each of ourselves gone through dark times, good times. We've hated each other at times. We love each other most of the times. But we've always been able to figure out every problem that we face together because we're basically just aligned. We want to enjoy life together, go far together.
Do you consider yourself as rich now, or do you have like a goal that you still that you still want to achieve, and where are you at right now?
Yeah, for sure. I would say so. When I came to the US, I only had enough for tuition. So I've never taken a break. I've never gone on holidays, whereas my friends would go to trips to Tahoe or like New York and all those places. I've never done anything. I'm mostly just with my co-founders building. Fortunately and unfortunately, because we all had limited buying power. And coming back to your question, what was it again? Sorry.
Are you at a stage where you feel that you're financially stable, or
of course. I would say I'm financially very stable. I can probably maintain the way that I live until the day that I die. But in terms of goals, I don't think I'm there yet. I think I'm pretty far from where I want to be. And I don't really view it as a financial goal, more so as I want to solve harder problems and I want to keep doing that. And money is probably the byproduct of it. I'd be lying if I told you I don't care about the money, but I do want to solve really hard problems. And for me personally, I want to build something in the space industry.
Yeah. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So ever since I was a kid, I'm a big Star Wars fan. I've always loved spaceships. I have a lot of toys that are Star Wars spaceships, and I've always wanted to build one. My first dream as a kid was actually to be an astronaut, right? But slowly over time, growing up in Indonesia, I have to understand that if I end up living in Indonesia, that's probably not a dream that's realistic. There is no space program back home, right? So I would have to do something else. And I gradually kept going down from wanting to be an astronaut, and I was like, okay, let me try robotics then if I can't build spaceships. And then I started to realize as well that robotics is probably something that I can't do back home. And then I just went down a little bit, maybe programming, right? When you build robots, you still need to program. Maybe that's something that I could do back home, just in case if I can't live outside. And so I went all the way down to programming. And right now, after selling a couple of companies and being able to work on this new problem in AI, after nailing customers like NVIDIA, Google, and all those logos, me and my co-founder sort of just feel like the sky's the limit, or maybe the moon is the limit, right? And so I kind of want to revive my old dream since I was a kid of wanting to build something in space. I have talked to a lot of founders in the space, luckily, because I'm in Silicon Valley. I've seen the problems that they're tackling in space, which is really amazing, that I've told you about as well. Man, my friends are working on logistics in space. There's a company called Inversion Space where they send, items, like from lower Earth orbit down to any point on Earth in 30 minutes, right? And then I have friends who are building manufacturing capsules in space, eventually wanting to manufacture satellites up there, mining in space. Like, it just changes your perspective. Like, you're usually limited by what you can do on Earth, but once you expand your horizons to space, there's literally no limit. Like, you don't know what's going on there. And that excites me because everything that you've learned on planet Earth, everything you know about math, physics, everything that you think is exact might not work out there. And that's very exciting.
Yeah, because it's new planet.
Yeah, it's new frontiers.
New frontier.
New math, new physics.
Yes.
You get to restart again from zero.
So what's the biggest problem, after talking to so many founders building in space and eventually wanting to go there after doing AI, what's the biggest problem that you see? Is it logistics? Is it setting up things there? Or is it actually down to the foundation of we haven't figured out the math in space?
I think SpaceX has quite figured out the math and physics on how to go to space. But I feel like the biggest problems right now are mainly just infrastructure, right? So the US wants to build a moon base within the next decade, right? How do you even carry that many things, thousands of tons worth of infrastructure to space? How do you set up manufacturing sites there? How do you carry all the robots that probably Elon's going to produce all the way up to space to build for us? So the infrastructure for getting in space is there. You have SpaceX. The infrastructure to refuel in space isn't there yet. People are also building things like communications in space. Like, Elon's going to ship GPUs inside of Starlinks now. You can have AI processing there. You can have the internet in space. Getting there, landing there, mining there,
Yeah.
staying there. It's like a whole set of problems that you're going to face. And, I don't think there's any just one that's going to be big.
Yeah.
All of them that's encapsulating infrastructure to make human interplanetary.
Yeah. My question is, why do you choose to build in AI instead of just straight away building in space?
Man, we tried that actually.
Okay.
Yeah, me, Albert, and Michelle, we tried launching a rocket last year just to try to understand more about the space.
Like an actual rocket?
Like an actual rocket, yeah. But sadly, we feel that we are financially stable, but having to stomach the pain of not generating any revenue for the next 10 years is something that we can't do yet. So we're more towards like, okay, let's solve a problem that will give us that confidence to not make money in the next 10 years. And you might end up failing.
Yeah.
You might end up going to zero within the next 10 years. We just didn't have the stomach to do that. Yeah.
But outside of this, right, building an AI, you mentioned before this podcast that AI is coming and it's gonna be big.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're solving for that to
Yes.
mind the goal to be able to fund you and
Yeah.
your team into space.
Yeah.
Why do you think that's the case?
Why do I think AI is going to be big? So I think AI is going to be big because it takes all the previous technologies that humanity has invented, things like the internet, cloud, mobile, all these apps. It's going to combine all of them. And also, it's going to take labor, which has never been done before, right? AI is a new technology that can sort of do things on its own. It can't really think for itself yet, but given a clear enough directive and given a clear enough goal, it can solve actual problems, right? We've never seen a system that can solve problems for humans yet. Now it's tied into the digital space. But once it gets into physical space, such as real physical labor with robots, then it's gonna get really big. That's the size of the entire economy of planet Earth.
Yeah.
It's that big, yeah.
Once the robots came in,
Yeah.
what will you think that the faith of us, working class will be for the next 10 to 15 years?
For sure, yeah. So there's like a lot of views on this. I think one of the most popular ones is just people being very afraid, very dystopian about, once the robots come out, we're not going to have jobs. I don't think so. I think humanity has always been able to figure out what to do next, right? I think what's going to be different is that this time around, we need to relearn, and adapt on being okay with not having the same job or doing the same thing from the day you graduate college all the way till the day you die or retire, right? That has been the case for the past couple hundreds of years. Like, it's okay for you to just have one job, but maybe not anymore, right? It's going to keep changing, and the change is going to come even faster. A couple years back, you wouldn't see AI develop as fast as, like, maybe it takes years. Like, within a year, you'll see meaningful change, and then it became within a quarter, and then now, every few months, month or two, you're going to see some crazy thing happen, right? And then in the future, it's probably going to be weeks. So you got to constantly learn and adapt. And I feel like the younger generation is going to be able to do that. They're going to have a higher chance of adapting really fast. But what I'm worried about is the older generation who probably don't want to do it.
Yeah. I've heard about it online, with people having to have the non-linear career.
Yeah.
Starting from when AI came in and like basically taking their whole job. How do you see that shape actually? For people actually who are like maybe comfortable with their job, let's say they're doing an accounting job.
Yes.
How do you see that happen? Like, what steps do they have to take? Coming from someone at the frontier of AI and actually building within AI.
Yeah, so I think the immediate step of what they can do is automation makes you a manager, not an individual contributor, right? So for anyone whose jobs can be automated by AI, your next job would be the manager of these AI agents or AI systems. If you don't give them enough clear direction, like what the engineers do now, these agents are not going to be able to come up with quality work, right? I'll give you an example in software, which is a lot more vivid than any other careers out there. Recent grads are really afraid, like coding agents can code better than them.
Yeah.
But if you just tell them to sort of create a solution for you, it's not going to be scalable. It's not going to be enterprise ready. For vibe coding, for fun projects, for hobbyists, it's fine. But I don't think you can just tell a coding agent to come up with a solution in 30 minutes and then sell it to a company the size of NVIDIA. Yeah. They're not going to pay for that, right? You got to battle test if the solution actually works or not. And a lot of the thinking becomes more managerial. It becomes more architecting the solution rather than just doing individual contributor work, right? Let me move buttons here, like let me set up the database. Like those things you probably don't need to do, but thinking of how robust the system could be is the immediate next step.
But that also coming from the stage of AI progress that we have now, right?
That's true.
Would you say that will change also, within the next few years?
Definitely, yeah. Within the next few years, you're gonna have to upgrade yourself even further. Maybe managerial is not something that humans would do. But yeah, the key here is to become more AI native and just to experience it on a day-to-day. The job for humanity now, for me and you, is to experience where AI cannot go yet. Right? So if you use AI on a day-to-day basis and you feel like it can do all your job, then there's something wrong there.
Yeah.
Because on a day-to-day basis, for me and my co-founders and everyone who works together with us, the problem that we're trying to solve, we can't just prompt ChatGPT like, hey, here's a problem, solve it. It's not in their training data to solve that, right? So I would say if you're someone who's scared and you want to try to really adapt to this new age, work on something that's not in the training data.
Do you have any examples on that?
Oh, of course. Like there's tons. There's a lot of diseases that hasn't been solved, right, up to now. If anything, what gets me excited about AI is that it frees you up to stop doing busy work and start to actually do meaningful work. I really hope cancer gets cured within our lifetimes. I hope that a lot of the busy work that we have to do in 9 to 5 every day gets eliminated. And yeah, I mean, we can focus more on changing how education is, how the new generation is going to learn. We don't want kids to just go to school and just one prompt away and get their homeworks done, right? There's a lot of things that needs to be rethought, that needs to be adapted to this new age. But yeah, biology, new physics, space, like the frontiers, right? New matter, new energy, faster computers, those things are definitely industries to look out for.
Yeah. I want to talk just a little bit about your business. You mentioned that right now, as we're talking, internet activity has more agents actually.
Yeah.
How do you actually figure that out? And for people here who don't know and don't really know how the agents talk to each other, how do you actually explain it? And how do you think that will change the way we shop or the way we surf the internet within the next few years?
Yeah, for sure. So what it means by agent activity being more than human activity on the internet, the reason is because now there's a lot of people in Silicon Valley who don't really want to do the individual contributor job anymore, right? So what's going to happen is that they're going to give a goal and they're going to spin up sub-agents and they're going to give them the freedom to do their own research and solve the problems in their own ways and experiment in their own ways. So that means given one person and one problem, you might have 10 or 20 different sub-agents working for you. And these agents are the new users of the internet. They become first-class citizens now. They're the ones who are researching, they're the ones who are comparing, they're the ones who are choosing and using these products on the internet, right? How is it going to change shopping? How is it going to change work? Well, a lot, right? So a lot of the times today, when we shop, there's only a handful of things that we really like to buy, right? The ones that maybe like things like luxury goods or maybe tech products.
Yeah.
they're very personal to you. You would want to have the experience yourself. But if you're working for a company and you're working for a procurement team, right? You have to buy 100 different laptops or 100 different chairs. You probably don't want to do that. That feels like a chore to you, right? So anything that feels like a chore will be automated. You're going to give agents the liberty to spend within a certain amount of budget, within a list of approved merchants.
Yeah.
You just need things. You tell it to buy those things, and it'll get them for you. But the things that you enjoy buying will probably stay with you. In terms of work, what's going to change is that people like me and you, we use ChatGPT or Claude a lot. And you're going to want to tell them to start using your software. And like, oh, this is how I want to edit my video, right? Use Premiere Pro for me.
Yeah.
Like, I'll give you the vision. I'll give you a couple examples. Use it for me. So what that means is that moving forward, the users of software, not just the internet, will become these agents, right? Me and you will be far removed from it.
So is it already happening today?
Of course. Today, what's happening in Silicon Valley is engineers do not open software anymore. Right? Back then, you would have them open up things like GitHub to push their code or check their code. You know, there's Docker and a bunch of other these softwares for humans to operate with. Today, engineers, they just open up Claude Code or Codex, and they just tell them what to do, and they do everything, right? So these software engineers are experiencing the frontier here, whereas when they log into their computers, they're no longer opening dashboards. They're literally instructing agents on what to do and watch them do it, become their managers. This hasn't really spread out to the rest of the world yet, or most non-technical people, but I feel like in the next few months, that's how you want to experience.
And you have NVIDIA, you have Google, and you have a bunch full of other companies that are paying you, that are your customer. How do you get them in the first place? You know, being a company, a startup, right? I mean, obviously it's so different from Indonesia. You don't know anyone. How do you actually land them?
Yeah, for sure. So we got them because, first of all, it's a very hot space, the problem that we're solving. And there isn't a big company that has solved it yet. So by nature, they are actively looking for a solution, and they're comparing a lot of these other solutions that are in the market. It just so happens that we're there when we are one of those solutions. And how do you get companies like NVIDIA and Google? You get them through merit, right? You have to battle it out with other companies that might be bigger than yours, as we did. And it's a very painful process. Sometimes it takes months to do. And you have to be able to provide them value within that pilot time frame, right? Within a month or two, you don't provide value, you're immediately cut off, right? But there's none of these things that happen in most countries in Asia, whereas, oh, I know a person there, right? And I know someone who works there who can make it easier for me. Here, that does help a little bit. It probably will open up the door for you. But if you're solving a brand new problem like we are, you don't really need those kinds of people, right? You just show them value within the pilot, you get them.
So do you just email them?
You email them, you show up in their events, right? You meet them in person, you talk to them. And if they care a lot about the problem, you know, naturally, the next steps are just
how you go about solving their problem and also giving value.
Exactly.
So they actually are keen to, you know, explore. Do you think they're more keen?
Of course. They're very, very open. Like most companies here are always looking for the edge, right? What's the frontier here? I want to be able to do something before my competitors do. So they're always actively looking for new problems to solve.
Why do you think that the best place to build a tech company is in SF, specifically, you know, in Silicon Valley right now?
Yeah, for sure. So I think number one is going to be talent. If you're trying to solve anything in technology, you have to have a lot of engineers surrounding you. Right? Without engineers, you're not going to be able to solve most hard technical problems. Right? So number one is talent. And then number two is the open-mindedness of potential customers to just try out something that's new. Failure is something that's very normal here in SF. It's actually embraced. Right? You would see people try building multiple different companies in their lifetime, and every new company, you would always see them either being backed by the same investors or even different ones. Like they like people who have failed, and especially those who learn from their failures.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't see that type of culture anywhere else but SF, like even in other cities in the US. And the last thing is just people here are very helpful for some reason. They kind of want to pay it forward to the next generation. And we have been beneficiaries of that. You have institutions like Y Combinator, where founders of the past who have sold their companies for billions of dollars suddenly wanting to go back and just help the next generation, right? I don't see that happening in any other city or any other country.
Yeah. So the mentorship, the guidance that these institutions are actually providing for founders is like one of the key things that is helpful also to build the ecosystem here.
Of course.
Yeah. Last question.
Yeah.
If you could send message back to yourself, maybe before everything that you're building now, or maybe that can resonate with early founders that are trying to build something, that is building something, but it's not scalable yet, what message would you give them?
I still tell this to myself every day. Me and my co-founders believe in it heavily. It is as simple as fail fast, fail cheap, and fail forward, right? And especially if you're in tech, it is very easy to do that. Don't linger too much around trying to solve a problem that is not meaningful. Don't try the same thing over and over again. You just fail cheap, fail fast, fail forward.
Yeah. How do you make sure that you fail cheap and fail fast? Because like some founders are mostly attached, right, with their especially first companies. They have like some sort of a sentiment towards that, and they want to make it work. So how do you actually know and when to draw the line?
Yeah, so obsession is actually a good trait to have as a founder. You have to be persistent. But since the very beginning, you need to understand that the problem that you're solving is really worth it. If that problem has been solved many different ways and your edge is literally just, oh, my product is specifically better and faster and cheaper, or it's only for a specific type of demographic. This is the same thing in America, like Robinhood for Indonesia, or you do those types of companies. It's generally not advised for you to go after that problem for a very long period of time. But if you're working for something like in space, right, you don't see it work, but you don't see any other people, any other company solving that problem, then it's fine for you to be obsessed at it.
All right. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.